What if the greatest threat to a global superpower wasn't an external enemy, but a rot so deep, so destructive, that it was consuming its own military from the inside out? For months, we focused on external fronts, on geopolitical maneuvers, and on strategic positioning. But a far more volatile, far more immediate crisis is intensifying behind the guarded walls of the Russian military structure itself. This isn't just about losing a battle. This is about the complete disintegration of trust and loyalty, fueled by a devastating mix of rampant endemic corruption and catastrophic needless casualties that have become normalized. It's a crisis that has evolved from a small, isolated internal grievance into a systemic, existential threat to the stability and integrity of the entire Russian state, revealing fundamental weaknesses that no amount of external posturing can mask. The sheer, staggering scale of the internal damage is difficult to fully grasp, requiring an understanding of decades of institutional neglect. We are talking about high-ranking officers, often at the general staff level and within procurement commands, the very individuals entrusted with the sanctity of national defense, the readiness of their forces, and the lives of their troops, being systematically involved in outright brazen theft, industrial-scale supply pilfering, and sophisticated, multi-layered bribery schemes that function like a parallel economy. This isn't low-level petty crime committed by desperate individuals. This is an institutionalized failure where the chain of command, instead of rigorously securing victory and troop welfare, is actively and cynically collaborating to line its own pockets with illicit wealth, viewing the defense budget as a personal slush fund. The basic necessities, the critical high-tech equipment, winter uniforms, medical supplies, fuel allotments, rations, even the essential ballistic plates and tactical body armor meant for the frontline soldier. All of it is being methodically siphoned off, documented as expended or lost, and then sold on the black market or simply disappearing into the vast untraceable shadow economy of the defense apparatus, leaving the fighting man utterly exposed. Can you imagine stepping into a conflict, knowing your life-saving gear, your only shield against a lethal threat, was traded for someone else's luxurious vacation home or private jet fuel? This profound, unforgivable lack of ethics at the very top has a direct, tragic, and immediate consequence that is both cruel and devastatingly fatal: the utterly needless deaths of thousands upon thousands of soldiers. It's not simply the enemy's ordnance that is claiming these lives. It is overwhelmingly the negligence, the incompetence, the callous disregard, and the sheer malice of poor, self-serving leadership that is responsible. Due to this catastrophic criminal failure of command and logistics, vast numbers of personnel are being deployed on missions that are, by any legitimate military or ethical standard, nothing short of suicidal. They are being pushed into operational scenarios where the planning is deliberately flawed, the required resources are absent, the intelligence is non-existent or ignored, and the prospects of returning alive are almost mathematically zero. These are not strategic, calculated sacrifices for the greater good. These are gross logistical, moral, and ethical failures disguised as unavoidable combat operations, effectively turning loyal servicemen into cannon fodder for the benefit of distant, corrupt officials. It's the ultimate, heinous betrayal. A soldier prepared to die honorably for his country and his comrades, instead dying miserably for his detached commanding officer's greed and incompetence. The psychological, moral, and emotional toll this corrosive reality takes on the surviving ranks, the junior officers, and the non-commissioned personnel cannot be overstated. When the men and women serving bravely witness this level of decay, when they see their comrades die because a fuel truck was empty or their vests were filled with sawdust, how on earth are they expected to maintain loyalty, discipline, or fighting spirit? Worse still, anyone who dares to speak out, anyone who raises a valid, factual complaint about the missing supplies, the criminal theft, or the impossible mission parameters, faces not an investigation, but swift, targeted, and brutal retaliation. Classified reports indicate that personnel who voiced their concerns, who sought basic accountability or justice for their dead friends, were immediately, and often deliberately, dispatched on the most extremely dangerous, poorly supported operations available. It was a calculated, chilling tactic designed to silence dissent through exposure to lethal, overwhelming danger, sending a clear message to everyone else: silence or perish. This relentless cycle of institutional corruption, catastrophic poor leadership, and targeted retribution has left military morale utterly and completely shattered, reduced to cynicism and fear. It's an environment where the most immediate and personal danger to a soldier isn't necessarily on the geographical front line facing the enemy, but right there, in the barracks or in the field headquarters, facing their own corrupted and punitive chain of command. What happens to a massive fighting force, the presumed shield of the nation, when its members fear their own self-serving leaders exponentially more than the external opponent? That profound institutional loss of faith is perhaps the single greatest existential vulnerability Russia faces today, far exceeding any conventional military threat. The official, massive response to this growing malignancy has ironically confirmed the horrific depth and spread of the rot. Consider the astonishing, almost unbelievable figures that have surfaced. In the condensed period between 2024 and 2025 alone, a staggering nearly 30,000. Soldiers faced formal, documented disciplinary action specifically for corruption-related offenses, ranging from embezzlement to gross dereliction of duty tied to missing resources. We are not talking about minor disciplinary infractions or petty theft here. This is a state army purging tens of thousands of its professional and contracted members due to deep-seated systemic failures that threaten its very ability to function. Many of these individuals were summarily expelled from the army altogether, stripped of their honor, their promised pensions, their state benefits, and their military careers, adding to the instability. This sudden, violent upheaval is a massive internal hemorrhage and a clear sign of panic within the defense ministry. Yet these massive expulsions and widespread disciplinary measures are not resolving the crisis. They are merely accelerating and fueling it. They are creating a vast, rapidly growing, highly disaffected population of former military personnel, individuals who are trained, battle-hardened, networked, and profoundly resentful of the system that betrayed them, who are now back within the civilian population, often in regional centers. This highly combustible situation is contributing directly and measurably to an environment of simmering internal unrest and deep pervasive discontent that extends far beyond the perimeter of the military bases, leaking instability directly into society and regional politics. This dire situation has complex ramifications that extend far beyond simple combat readiness or frontline success. It is actively and aggressively eroding the fundamental trust, not just within the military structure, the essential trust between the operational officer and the rank-and-file soldier, but also the crucial foundational trust between the armed forces establishment and the political leadership in the Kremlin. The ruling power relies on the unquestioning loyalty and professional functionality of the military as the ultimate guarantor of its continued control and stability. When that vital central pillar is visibly and demonstrably crumbling due to internal decay, corruption, and self-serving criminality, it serves as a dangerous, unmistakable, and ticking clock warning to the Kremlin that internal pressure, that silent building rage among tens of thousands of armed men, could spiral rapidly out of control at any moment, potentially manifesting as politically motivated resistance. Can any regime truly feel secure and remain in control when its most vital security apparatus is so demonstrably compromised and demoralized by its own institutionalized greed? While there is currently no confirmed, organized, full-scale revolt or mass mutiny erupting in the traditional sense at this very moment, we are undeniably witnessing the precursor to something far more unpredictable and potentially chaotic. What we are observing is often described by analysts as a silent storm. A critical mass of deep-seated grievances, irreversible institutional failure, and boiling, widespread resentment that is gathering exponential pace beneath the surface of official silence. This is not a slow, manageable decline that can be contained by minor policy changes. It is a fundamental structural breaking point waiting for a trigger. The combined relentless forces of internal corruption and the high unacknowledged cost of human life are creating a political pressure cooker, and history provides overwhelming evidence that such systemic internal pressures rarely dissipate peacefully, often leading to internal collapse or sudden violent political shifts. This internal, self-inflicted crisis holds the very real potential to profoundly and violently shake the political and military landscape of Russia in the very near future, perhaps far sooner and more dramatically than anyone currently anticipates, demonstrating that the collapse came not from without, but from within. Greed is the deadliest enemy of any great power. A military cannot survive, nor can a state remain stable, when its leaders systematically prioritize personal profit over sacred duty and the lives of their own loyal soldiers. I believe it is an imperative to keep a very close analytical eye on this internal seismic shift, because the true destabilizing threat to Russia might not be thousands of miles away on any conventional border, but right here at the heart of its own corroded and corrupted military and political system. If you found this detailed, expanded breakdown of the internal crisis illuminating, please like and subscribe to stay informed on these critical, hidden, and rapidly evolving developments shaping global power dynamics and internal stability.